guys, it's Ryan Fowler here with Jordan Kurtz, Intermasculine Live, new camera angle, woo! And we got a good one today. We got a humdinger today because we're gonna. That's my old boomer expressions. We're gonna look at anger, and we're gonna show one viewpoint, which is a Stoic viewpoint, which, if you just view anger from the surface, is a rational viewpoint. But then we're actually going to show Gabor, who is one of the world leading scientists on addiction, on internal trauma, on the emotional causes of disease, and all other sorts of issues like that. And he's an expert on anger. And he's going to weigh in. And so we're going to kind of compare the two. And then say, what's healthy anger, what's unhealthy? How do we best manage anger? Is any anger healthy? Is it all bad? Is it all destructive? Yeah, we're going to weigh in on that. But first, going to introduce my good friend, brother from another mother, Jordan Kurtz. How you doing? Go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
I'm doing good. I had a good week. My name is Jordan Kurtz. If you wouldn't mind, go follow me on Twitter, trying to grow the social media empire platform. I don't have enough followers, so I post every day, try and give you guys little nuggets of wisdom about hypnosis, about therapy, about inner game. So go follow me on there. Show me some love and support. I'd really appreciate it, guys.
All right. And I am Ryan Fowler, innermasculine.com. And if you want to understand how our subconscious mind works, it takes about an hour of reading, and you will know all the fundamentals as pertains to how the subconscious works, why it keeps you stuck, and why it makes you struggle in so many areas of life. So it's right there, intermasculine.com/free-ebook. Pop in your email, you get it for free. It's a 1-hour read. It is no fluff. It is all cold, hard facts with a few relevant examples here and there just to really drive the point home. And then you're going to understand the subconscious mind possibly better than Jordan Peterson. So today we're looking at anger. And we got two viewpoints here. We got the viewpoint of an ancient Stoic named Seneca. And then we have the viewpoint of a modern doctor. I'm going to comment on each. And so will Jordan. And this is good stuff because these are really kind of Seneca's viewpoint and then Gabor Mate's. They're kind of opposites. So obviously only one of them can be correct. Maybe they're both partially correct. But to some degree, one's going to be right, one's going to be wrong. And so we're going to kind of pick that apart. Do you have any, before we start the Seneca clip, which was chosen by you, which I greatly appreciate, Jordan, do you have anything to say about this clip, which we're going to watch about 2.5 minutes of it?
Yeah, the main reason because I always source videos for the shows, and I was watching it, and eventually I decided, I was like, okay, the main theme of the video, spoiler alert, is going to be kind of figure out ways of either ignoring how you feel or pushing away how you feel.
Suppression, suppressing your anger.
Right. And if you've watched us before, you've heard me say many times that that's what we try and advise people not to do.
Yeah.
Because we have healthy ways of not like changing the mental models and I guess the programs, the belief systems inside your mind, so you don't have to do that because it's unhealthy to suppress it. And Gabor Mate is going to explain some about how it actually causes disease and can cause a whole host of other issues. So they definitely conflict with one another because you can't have both.
By the way, depression is anger turned inwards, among other things. That's part of depression.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so, it's not appropriate to be angry at others. You turn it inward. Now you're depressed. So, Dr. Mate, who's one of the world's leading experts on this subject, he's going to show you, how this connected disease and all sorts of stuff. It's really interesting. Do you want anything to set up this clip, or you just want to play it? It kind of introduces him, but it's up to you if you have anything to add.
I think I set it up the right way. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's dive in here.
Oh, well, I guess I'll say that it's about Stoicism. This is the Stoics' view of how you should handle anger.
And I like some of what the Stoics say, but they don't get it all right. And we have modern science to kind of prove certain things. But all right, let's go into the Seneca clip right here. I'll keep it at 1 1/4 playback. Here we go.
Seneca says, we shouldn't control anger, but
Now I'll put it at normal speed. Here we go.
destroy it entirely. But what control is there for a thing that's fundamentally wicked?
So first off, you can't destroy it. Anyways, it's part of your fight or flight response. It's part of the fight response. It's integral to your brain. It's our limbic system. All right, we'll keep going.
That's not fundamentally wicked either. I don't.
Yeah,
I
it's not
disagree with-
fundamentally wicked either. There's an evolutionary reason for all of our emotions. There is an evolutionary survival-based reason. If it impeded our survival, it would not be there. But we'll keep going.
Yes, Seneca was a prominent Roman philosopher and playwright who published several essential works about Stoicism.
They're not that essential.
He counseled Emperor Nero and thought that anger is a temporary madness, and that even when justified, we should never act on the basis of it, because it affects our sanity. Seneca wrote a book specifically on anger called De Ira, which defines and explains anger within the context of Stoic philosophy, and offers advice on how to prevent and control anger. And that's why in this video, we're going to look at 10 ways we can control our anger from the teachings of Seneca.
I wonder how screwed up his kids were.
Number 1. Recognize that anger is destructive. Seneca says, we shall prevent ourselves from becoming angry if we repeatedly place before our eyes all anger's faults and form a proper judgment of it. The first step to
So do you think anger is always destructive, Jordan? What's your take?
I mean, it depends on what it's coming from. I mean, if I like go back to that quote, if you like put like 5 seconds back.
Yeah.
Comment on that. We shall prevent. Yeah, a little for it. Yeah. Well, because I kind of disagreed with it. It's.
I'm struggling here.
It's all good.
Because I don't have my mouse in because my camera's plugged in. I'm on.
You can hit. Well, you can just hit play.
if we repeatedly place before our
So we shall prevent ourselves from becoming angry if we repeatedly place before our eyes all anger's faults and form a proper judgment of it. So I think what he's trying to say, I'll be charitable and say that if you can just understand the cause, that lowers the intensity of the feeling. Is that your reading of what he's saying there too? Or
if we repeatedly before eyes all anger's faults and form a proper judgment. Well, is anger only destructive only about faults? Is that all it's about? Is there nothing else there? Is there nothing positive about anger?
Yeah, because he recognized that anger is just like that implies all anger. And so it doesn't really.
He doesn't say anything about anger's virtues.
Right. So that was kind of my thought. Because right off the bat, he's characterizing it in a way that I don't totally agree with.
Yeah, he said anger's always destructive. That's the part I was trying to get to.
Yeah. All right, we can keep.
So is it always destructive? Let's see if recognize that anger is destructive. Is it always destructive?
I don't think it's just. I don't think you can characterize it as being like positive or negative. It's a reaction to something else, and so it's depending on. Like, what am I trying to say here? It's not. It's if you take actions when you're angry, maybe those actions might be potentially destructive if you are hitting other people or doing stuff like that. But anger itself is just it's a symptom of a larger issue, and so you need to address the larger issue rather than the symptoms. Again, we talk a lot about symptoms versus the actual causes. And I like to address causes, not just symptoms. Symptoms can help lead you to the cause, but anger itself is just a symptom of a larger thing.
Yeah. And I'll use an axiom of science. You only have to prove a statement false once to prove it's not a true statement, at least not entirely true. At the very minimum, there are exceptions that make that statement not true. So if someone is trying to murder my friend and I say that's not acceptable, and I beat this other guy up and chase him off because I'm pissed, has my anger been more destructive or has it prevented destruction?
Right.
You know, in that case, it prevented destruction. It's a net positive. And furthermore, it's my friend. But there's, you know, if the other guy survives and my guy doesn't die, there's actually less destruction there than not being angry and doing nothing. Now, probably how he responds is, well, just handle it in a controlled manner. And it's like, yeah, okay, I'm going to attack this guy to defend my friend and not be angry. I feel this anger. Okay, let me get my anger under control first. Now let's act rationally. Yeah, that doesn't happen. That's just, you know, ridiculous. So right there, I proved his statement wrong.
You might say like
where the anger is a net positive and actually prevents destruction.
You might say like, oh, if you know, I'll play devil's advocate and say, oh, you know, if you're more have your emotions under control and someone's being attacked, you can handle it safer and better is what they might push back on. But that doesn't mean like I don't think they're mutually exclusive. No, it's not.
Let's take a few moments before we take action and figure out how to best do this. Let's rationally think it out for 5 minutes while my friend's getting destroyed before taking action. That's just retarded. It's like, no, it's like act.
Right.
That's the whole point.
Yeah. If anger helps you default to action, that's, you know, that
take action.
Keeps you safe and others safe. So
now, can anger be used destructively? Yeah. Now, when we go into Dr. Gabor Mate's presentation, we're going to see why anger is misapplied, why it is used in it, what causes it. Oh, Tim Costello's on the road right now. Can't be with us. That's okay, Tim. We'll catch you next time. Welcome to the show, Tim. Tim's normally on the show with us, but it's all good. And so, yeah, there's plenty of times where anger is used to hurt the innocent, etc. Can be very destructive, but there's a reason that anger is misapplied and used in a destructive way. And Dr. Gabor Mate is going to go in it. And guess what? This guy's solution is actually part of the problem. So you're going to see that when we actually go into the science. You're going to see why suppressing anger actually leads to the misapplication of anger, because it's not a viable solution. It's really not. It causes so many ridiculous amount of problems. We're going to go into the science on it, guys. This attitude causes so many problems. It leads to the misapplication of anger. You're going to see, but we'll go through a little more of this first.
We shall prevent ourselves from becoming angry.
And the problem here is this guy looks at surface behaviors only, and he doesn't understand how people really work at a deep core subconscious level. They look at the surface behavior and they act accordingly, and they drew false conclusions because of that. Well, you know, no one's perfect. He's doing his best, but he got it wrong.
If we repeatedly place before our eyes all anger's faults and form a proper judgment of it. The first step to dealing with anger is recognizing how problematic this emotion is. We believe Aristotle's way of thinking that anger is not always bad. If one is angry at the right time and in the right context, then anger can sometimes be justified.
Yeah, that's Aristotle, and that's closer to the truth.
Aristotelians claimed that virtue lies in navigating the middle course between extremes. Concerning anger, they thought that the virtuous compromise is good temper, which lies between the unvirtuous poles of irascibility that is too much anger and lack of spirit that is too little anger. However, according to the Stoics, there is no such thing as a good degree of anger, but it doesn't mean that one has to be passive in the face of injustice. Human nature for the Stoics is that of a social animal capable of reason. It follows that...
And they're literally, they're saying our limbic system, which is about a third of our brain, which is the source of our emotions, does not exist. You can just turn it off and only be reasonable, only use logic, which is, it doesn't work for anyone, period. It just doesn't. Oh yeah, let's turn a third of our brain off that has evolved for an evolutionary survival reason. Let's just turn it off and only use reason. They're deluding themselves.
It's wishful thinking.
This is more delusional than feminism. It's crazy. Go ahead.
It's wishful thinking.
It's about the same, actually.
It's wishful thinking. And so I find it interesting that these must have been kind of competing ideologies, the Stoics and the Aristotle version, because Aristotle is like there's a spectrum of like between being justified and then unjustified, and then the Stoics are coming in and saying it's never good, no such thing as a good degree of anger. So it's interesting how, because these people were probably reading each other. I don't know who came first, but they came in and said no anger is there's no good degree of anger. It's none of it's reasonable, which I think is interesting.
Well, and this is literally wishful thinking.
Yeah.
They're saying, oh, wouldn't it be great if we had a world with zero anger? Well, first of all, you know how the nice guys are, the nice guys in our society, they never enforce boundaries.
Yeah.
They never say, hey, don't do that. I don't like that. I'm not going to let you do that to me. All right. I'm out of here. Or listen, if you push me too far, I'm going to push back. And in some cases, in some cases, when people are violating boundaries, it's okay to push back right away, depending on the boundary violation, verbally or otherwise, depending on the violation. Actually, more often than not, at least a verbal warning is like the bare minimum. If you don't, what happens? Well, you can get bullied as a kid. And then as an adult, you get bullied too. And actually, if I can find it, here's a well, no, I'll play it. There's a Chris Rock comment on how he was abused as a kid and how his anger was misapplied, but then he was scared. He was so scared of his anger, he suppressed it, and then he let absolutely everyone walk all over him. Maybe we'll play it at the end of the show if I can find it. But
like the nice guys you brought up, they hide their anger, and they only.
And then what happens? Does that serve them?
Right. No.
No, not
does
at all.
Not serve them.
Yeah, not at all.
But they think it will. That's the difference. Is they believe that if they just go along to get along, if they don't enforce boundaries, that's the best way to keep themselves safe, to keep the peace, and so it's not, they're not doing it to intentionally hurt themselves. They just believe that that's the best way of relating to people to keep themselves safe. And so that's why I try and, we talk a lot about bad, mental programs and stuff like that. I try and avoid saying the word bad. And I think a more accurate is unhelpful, because a lot of these programs kept you safe at one time or another. If you had a really, abusive father or mother who you felt like you could never stand up for yourself in front of, keeping your mouth shut may have kept you safe. And so it's not the best.
Dr. Mate talks about that 100%.
Right. So, I think that's all I want to say.
I'm actually going to play the Chris Rock clip. I found it, so give me just a second to line it up, because this is so core, man. This is so hardcore. He tells a very good story. Because of something that happened. Let's see. Because of something he did, he suppressed his anger to a great degree. And then you see.
This is Chris Rock.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to play this. Then you can see totally denying your anger, what it leads to. This is great. And then we'll go back to the Seneca clip. But man, this is all right. This is good stuff. All right, let me play this. He's going to share his childhood experience and what happened after he suppressed all of his anger. And he had a good reason for it. It wasn't the right reason, it was a good reason. So he was being bullied, and he's talking about what he did to one of the guys that just pushed him too far as a kid, bullied him too much.
kind of like kicked sand on my face in front of girls. And I went home. I put a brick in a book bag. This is like a legendary story in my neighborhood.
Bad
right?
Boys, yeah.
Legendary story because everyone respected him after, but he did take this too far.
And I fucking swung that shit and then smacked this guy in the face with this brick and then stomped him Joe Pesci style.
Wow.
Now, to the point, we thought he might die for even 3 days later, every time
So yeah, your anger does need to be controlled. He took it too far, but look what happened then.
or whatever would come through the block would be like, we're literally talking about ways of getting me this down south, like that would have helped.
Huh.
Long story short, from that day on, as my shrink puts it to me, you have been scared to be angry ever since.
Mm.
Okay, now he starts suppressing his anger. I cannot be angry. Listen, watch what happens.
So the guy you saw
All anger is bad. That's his viewpoint now. I'm scared to be angry.
was bending over backwards to be nice because I was so scared of my anger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see.
I was
Hulk-like.
frightened of what, my shrink, the good shrink, I got, like the top guy.
There's good ones and bad ones. Yeah, definitely.
There's good ones and bad ones, and he broke it down. It's like, we got to get you over that incident.
Right.
Because you're a nice guy, and this guy brought out something in you, and you're so scared of that thing coming out of you again.
Yeah.
That you let the whole world walk all over you.
Mm-hmm.
Your friends walk over you, your family walks over you, your female relationships, like everybody just fucks you over. Because it's somewhere in there they know there's a force field holding you back.
There you go. That's what happens when you suppress your anger, among other things.
Right.
There's
It's good
other
to recognize
manifestations of it too.
It's good that he recognized it. Which is, some people never recognize that that's the decision they've made.
Yeah.
And it seemed like he was young when he with the brick incident.
Yeah, he took it too far with that bully, but that bully did deserve to get the shit beat out of him because he was doing it to others and he needed to learn you can't do that. Someone should beat the shit out of that bully and put him in his place. Now, he took it too far. You don't want to beat him to within an inch of his life. But that's self-defense, man. I wouldn't do it afterwards, but, first off, why wasn't Chris able to go to his parents and just trust his parents to help? Now, Gabor Monte is going to talk about that. There's a reason for that Chris doesn't go into, but there's a reason he didn't go to his parents for help. We don't know the exact reason, but we sure can guess.
Or to any other adult in his life.
Yeah, why did his parents not protect him? Why weren't they there to protect him? Why could he not go to his parents for help? He's like, I'm alone. I got to do it myself. And he's just a kid. That's why he took a brick to that guy, because he didn't have a relationship with his parents where he could trust his parents to intervene and protect him. And honestly, if I was a parent, that's a tough situation. I think I would have gotten the police involved. And if the bullying kept up, I mean, it's a tough situation, but something would have to happen. And I mean, I would talk to their parents. Ultimately, if possible, I'd file a lawsuit on the parents if they didn't fix the issue. I would do something. I might say, hey, you can't take pepper spray to school, but anytime outside of school, I want you to have the pepper spray. And if they're doing this to you, pepper spray that motherfucker. Honestly, pepper spray the shit out of them and then run away. You got to do something. And, this attitude, oh, you shouldn't do that. It's like, dude, you want your kid to keep getting beat up, there is a good purpose to anger. You got to do something. So it's unfortunate he couldn't go to his parents and his parents sorted out. And, again, first go to the parents of the dad who's a bully, or mom, go to mom or dad of the kid who's a bully. If that doesn't happen, okay, we're going to escalate it. We're going to defend my child one way or another. I don't want to get thrown in jail, but we're going to find a way. This is not tolerable.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you put a body cam on the kid. Next time it happens, show it to the teacher, show it to the parents, and just let them know, listen, we're going to escalate this and escalate this and escalate this until something happens, but he couldn't go to his parents, so he had to handle it on his own. So that's mistake number one. Anyways, we'll keep playing this clip.
And because he also felt like he couldn't stand up for himself, like on his own.
Yeah.
So it felt like when you are backed into a corner, or you feel like you're backed into a corner, so to speak, people will act out of anger, and like the Stoics would say, and that's where I don't like the Stoic philosophy. It's like, well, what are you supposed to do when you're a kid and you feel like you're backed into?
Yeah, let's act rationally. Screw that.
Like I get that. That's like, I just don't think
if you don't learn how to handle anger healthily when you're young, you're going to have it unhealthily as an adult, one way or another. It's either going to be too extreme, you're going to blow up at the wrong people, or you're going to be like Chris and everyone's going to walk all over you. Sorry, go ahead.
Right. And because kids, that's when your unconscious or subconscious mind is really forming those programs. And if you're constantly bullied, you will believe that your only way out is either do something drastic, or because why does bullying work? It's because, or like, why does bullying have a negative effect? It's because you keep the kids they internalize the bullying to themselves. Like, it's you can't bully someone who believes that they already have value, right? You really only pick on people who are already self-conscious about themselves.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it may be a physically weaker kid who, no matter what, he gets bullied because the other guy's stronger.
Yeah.
But there is a way to resolve that situation. I believe that situation lies in empowering that kid. Put your kid in karate class, just whatever. And hey, if that other kid does get the shit beat out of him, he deserves it. Yeah, you can say, that's not good for the other kid, whatever. You know what? We have to take care of our own. And if it damages that other kid who's a bully, fuck that kid. My responsibility is not to that kid. My responsibility is to the emotional health of me and my child.
Right. And
so acting defensively, absolutely appropriate. Now, with that said, go ahead.
I was just saying, it's the responsibility of that.
I'm not responsible for that kid's emotional well-being if he is acting that way.
I meant
I'm totally fine screwing him up.
It's the bully's parents' responsibility.
Yeah.
Their own kid.
That's their negligence. That's their problem. I don't take the weight of the whole world on my shoulders. I treat others fairly. If they start disrespecting me, that's off the table. Fair treatment is off the table when others treat me or my child unfairly. Right. I will now react in a way to be smart, not to get in legal trouble. But it's like, dude, at some point you got to protect yourself, and the gloves come off.
Yeah. Right.
Now, I will tell you an incident from my life where something like this happened. So I was in my early 20s, and I got a summer job doing door-to-door sales. And so we had to room with other guys because we went to another state. We're in California, and my college was in Utah. And so there for the summer. And one of the guys in my group started bullying me, and he would do it for kicks, for giggles. He would do things like he would come up from behind me, like while I'm in my house and other guys are there, and he would pull my ankles out from under me and make me face plant. And then we're in the swimming pool, and then he'd take like a football and throw it at me as hard as he could and just knock me over, or just, And this was all in like one day. And then we're in a swimming pool, and he puts his arm around my neck and holds me underwater, like drowning me for a few seconds, like 10 seconds or whatever. So I didn't do anything at that point, but I had this anger building up inside of me. And you know, we're probably about the same. He was taller, but we were about the same strength level. I worked a lot. I was probably stronger. I worked out a lot back then. And so the next day, I'm like, all right, I'm going to resolve this because this can't continue. So I was doing it, you know, the responsible way, whatever that means. Responsible as I thought. And so I brought the guy between me and the boss. And I'm like, this guy's doing this. This can't continue. And this other guy's like, oh man, you're no fun. You're a party pooper. You're a loser, whatever. And so we went out and I started getting in his face because I was getting angry now. We went out in front of the sales team, the entire sales team. And he's still kind of poo-pooing on me, not taking any responsibility for what he did while I'm trying to enforce my boundaries. And he just keeps disrespecting me. And I just haul off and I just fucking punch him right in the face in front of everyone. And everyone saw him disrespecting me, you know, and they saw me punch him, and I got respect of the entire team that day. And I felt bad. I was like, well, it's bad to be angry. I had that old mindset. It's bad to be angry. I went into my boss, and my boss, like, you know, at the end of the day, we did our sales and then came back at the end of the day. He called me and he's like, yeah, I heard, you know, in the other room, there's an incident with this other guy. And I'm like, yeah, I'm so sorry, man. I lost my temper. He's like, no, I think it's cool. You should have done that. You know, you won the respect of the entire team because you don't put up with shit. And honestly, that's how it should be, you know, because he was physical with me.
Right.
He was physical with me. He was violent with me and then disrespected me. Cold cock that son of a bitch. And he stayed low level the rest of the time. He was actually really pissed at me because of that. Too bad. That's too bad. He did something like my name was on the phone bill, so he ran up a $50 phone bill and stuck me with it. Whatever, who cares, you know? But you gotta stand up for. Otherwise, people if I would not have done that, that bullying would have continued the entire summer. Untolerable, unacceptable.
And you were probably not the first person he's done that to. It made my
no. That guy deserves to get the shit beat out of him, because they need to know one way or another that is not acceptable. And you know what? That was my anger. I actually felt bad afterwards, but my anger led me to defend myself and gain the respect of the entire crew. And then that guy did not bully me anymore.
Because they pick their targets. Right, they pick on people because he could probably sense some degree of because of the.
Oh, I was a weak, nice guy, 100% for sure.
Right, because of the relationship,
and I did not choose to hit him. There was a part of my brain that just snapped and just. Yeah. The limbic part of my brain took over and said, "Oh no, you're not being a Mr. Nice Guy now," and it was the right decision, honestly.
Yeah. Maladaptive daydreaming.
That's another you can comment on that if you want, but I'd say that's kind of development beast. If you can tie that into anger, then we'll comment on it. Otherwise, I think it's kind of off topic.
We did a show on
cover that on another show.
We did a show about rumination, episode 5 or 6 or something. So you can.
That's pretty much the same thing. Yeah, I would say.
Curious. If you didn't defend yourself.
Well, how do you deal with it then? Well, if I didn't defend myself, he would have kept bullying me, and so I would have multiple opportunities to defend myself, to stand up for myself until I either tolerate the bullying that whole summer, and now no one respects me. They're like, this guy's the gamma male, this guy's a pussy, right. Or one of those times finally stand up to him, because I guarantee you that bullying would have continued. It stopped right there.
He might do it anymore. He might also be asking, how did you deal with it? Well, let's assume you never dealt with it the whole summer, and then years go by and you're still angry with it.
I don't want to be like Chris Rock.
Right. So, because what you end up doing, and so you can actually deal with it in hypnosis. If you're 30 or 31.
Oh yeah, we get that.
And you were really bullied when you were 16, 17, even younger than that. That's one of the useful tools we have is called Gestalt. So we can go back and basically release that anger towards whoever was abusive to you. And that's because it's kind of a neat thing, because we don't like Gestalt works because we essentially have an image in our mind of the other person. A good example is, have you ever gone back to I'm not old enough to really have this, but like a high school reunion, or you meet someone from your past that
Now,
you used to know.
Development Beast has a good comment here. He's talking about how his daydream is actually ruminating on anger. Just FYI. But
Yeah, I can address that in a moment. My point was like, you're really, and you notice it's like, oh, this person's really changed since I knew them 10 years ago, because you go into the interaction expecting them to be one way and they're completely different. That's how Gestalt works, is because you're interacting with that version of that person in your mind. For example, that's how we can have resentment towards people who are like parents or friends or people who are dead. Why are we still angry at people who are dead? It's because they don't really exist. They exist in our mind. And so
the anger is still trapped in you because
Right.
you suppressed it. And you
Right.
feel
You
it's not
released
right to have anger.
And
I used to have rage all the time. I got rid of it.
And that's how the masculine mindsets comment. If you didn't stand up for yourself when you needed to, and when you were heavily bullied, you can still do it through hypnosis. That's why this tool is so amazing.
Gestalt. Yeah, talk about Gestalt.
Right. That's why this is so neat, is because you can actually go back and really protect yourself and defend yourself and give your inner child the support that you didn't have back then. That's why this tool is amazing. So to answer Development Beast's question, I feel anger when I relapse and daydream. How to solve it? That's rumination right there. I still think that's rumination. It's like, because you're probably angry about past events. And
I can play a clip where I released a massive anger of one of my clients.
Yeah, sure, if you like.
Let me get to it.
Development
Go
Beast,
ahead.
I recommend that you go look. I made a playlist of all of these inner game group episodes. Go back and find the one on rumination. We talk about it for the entire hour or hour and a half, however long we went. Go look at that one, because we really go into it really in depth with all of us. So, because that's really what it is. It's rumination, and the way you solve it is by releasing the trapped anger, and you release the trapped anger through hypnosis, through Gestalt, sometimes regression to cause, depending on what the source is,
Now, this is where we actually do this. This interview here, I interviewed him right after his session. I also interviewed him 6 months later, and he said 90% of his massive rage was still gone. It's tiny bit there. That's it. This was permanent. I'm going to play this. I'll play it 1 1/4 speed. It might be 2 or 3 minutes, but it's really central to what we're talking about today. So when you don't let out anger healthily and appropriately, it gets trapped in you, and then it causes all sorts of problems. It causes you to snap at people, maybe beat the wrong person up, all of that. That's where you start overreacting, is when it's suppressed and it's in you for years, decades, whatever. But we can get rid of it. So I just finished a session with this guy he's going to tell you why he was angry. It may be a few minutes, but this is massive. So we'll watch this.
My anger was an insurmountable fucking demon.
Dude, you let go of it pretty quick, bro.
I didn't.
You let go of everything really quick. I was surprised.
It wanted to go. It was hurting.
Yeah.
It was hurting so bad, and I could feel it. And it was like I can't fight anymore.
Before our session, I asked you to connect to this rage. I asked you to connect to this sad feeling you had inside you. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Do you remember what number? I asked you to scale out of 1 to 10. Do you remember what number you gave it?
Christ, it was 10 or above. Yeah.
So you told me the resentment was a 10 plus towards your parents, but we ramped it up to a 9 before you were even in the session. In the session, it was a 10. It was super intense. Right. Before the session, you gave it a 9. Now I want you to feel inside and try and find any anger, resentment.
It's not there. It's not like it's not there.
Forever. It's gone forever.
What the fuck?
It's not coming back.
It's gone.
You did it, man.
That's a victory, my friend.
What the fuck? I don't even I can't. I'm trying to feel it. I'm trying to.
That's how powerful what we do is. We have the most powerful system in the world. There are people like Gabor Mate who don't know how to do what we do. I'm trying to take it to the world and show them so that they'll start doing it and uplift humanity. That's why I have a show. That's why I gave up my $190,000 a year work for myself, work from home job to do this full time, is because of stuff like this, because it's so important to humanity.
And it's not there.
I do this all the time. Or depression, just whatever. Now, again, I'm not a medical professional. I really just teach you how to let stuff go, love yourself, believe in yourself, and then it changes everything. But this happens all the time. This is not, I mean, this guy had a lot more severe trauma than most people, but I've done this for many other people.
I don't even know what it feels like.
Can you briefly tell anyone who's thinking about doing this, tell them about your background,
now you're going to hear about his abuse, what messed him up.
Anything too sensitive, don't tell it. But maybe about like what your parents were like and the abuse, the stuff you've been through, just to give us the context.
Yeah, man, I'll try. I get very scattered when I do this stuff because my mind goes off in 1,000 different directions.
Yeah.
Like I came from a very traumatic childhood, like very physically abusive, physical abuse by my dad, mental abuse, very, very bad. Like, and
what were their struggles? Are you okay saying what their struggles are? It's up to you. You don't have to.
Yeah, so they were both my parents were adopted, so I don't actually know any of my
wow.
And I'd heard things about the traumatic childhoods that they had, having been adopted and growing up that way. Oh man, where was I going with this? Like, I'm not even used to feeling this way.
Yeah.
We're talking about my parents, right? They were just very damaged, hurt people.
Yeah. Tortured souls. Would that be accurate?
Tortured souls. That would be 100%.
And
even if they are tortured souls, you have a right to defend yourself. Unfortunately, he was just a kid, and they were much bigger and stronger, and he relied on them for survival, so he had no choice, unfortunately. And now he had all this rage, but we released it. We conquered it.
What kind of abuse did you go through, if you don't mind sharing?
I was told, my dad would beat me. He would throw me around. He would do things like, if I was having a good day and I was in my room, like drawing or something, or just enjoying myself, he would come into the room because he was in a bad mood about something.
Mm-hmm.
He would take all my shit and throw it on the floor. He would take my bookshelves, throw them on the floor, mess my room up. Like I wasn't even there. He would storm in, flailing everything. Didn't care if he hit me, whatever. And then he would storm out, clean this shit up. He would beat me and tell me like, okay, now imagine if like you had actually done something. Imagine if you were actually in trouble for something. And then he would send me these crazy mixed messages at times. He would tell me like, yeah, you're my son, I love you, this and that. But then it would be like, you're a piece of trash, and you'll be lucky if you're ever 0.5% of what I am.
Wow.
Don't even fucking try. Like,
you think that sunk in? Do you think you ended up believing, internalizing that?
I fucking internalized it so fucking bad.
Yeah.
It was.
Okay, we're gonna skip ahead. This second interview is 6 months later. Let's see what happened to his anger. Is this a temporary boost or is it permanent? We'll see.
Before our first session, what was the big thing we worked on?
This is 6 months later.
Do you remember?
If I remember correctly, the big thing that we worked on like a lot of anger, resentment, like a lot of feelings of those things towards myself, like not feeling like enough.
Yeah.
And particularly towards my parents, like we were talking about, but
the rage and toxic shame, is that right?
Right.
Okay.
That's what we were working on. And I'm gonna shut off my my video just because my internet connection's unstable, just for a second.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, but obviously new problems come up all the time, but I haven't had any of that resentment, any of that. Like it's bizarre. It's like my mindset totally shifted. I haven't had any of that. And like people have actually said they've noticed a difference.
Yeah.
In me.
How bad was like your resentment, anger, rage, or whatever it was you felt? Would you describe it as all three or something different?
It was terrible, and it was at everything. Cause it was at everything going on in my life at the time. It was at me. It was at my ex-wife. It was at my parents.
See, that's what happens. You get this repressed in you. Now you take it out on everyone else. Him, his ex-wife, parents. Now he's mistreating others.
Yeah. I guess a lot of victim minds.
And this is why some bullies are bullies. They gotta vent their anger. Let's pick on this weak kid who won't fight back, so I can get my anger out.
That stuff, but and it wasn't doing me any good, which is why I reached out to you in the first. I would say that hypnosis is like surgery.
Yeah,
that's what it is. It's surgery.
By the way, we did another session. We fixed a bunch of other things in it.
Surgery.
Yep. And I'm just curious, have you done like traditional psycho?
All right, so he said it's pretty much all gone. I think you heard that.
Yeah.
That was 6 months later, permanent effect. So,
and we also
go ahead, Jordan.
I was gonna say we also learned that Ryan only has a closet of red shirts at the time.
Whatever.
I'm just giving you shit.
yeah, maybe it's true. But yeah, so the thing is, guys, you see all these coaches who say stuff sound good. Do they show receipts? We do. Go to the video section of my YouTube channel. You'll see receipt after receipt after receipt. This is nuclear. You see anyone else getting these results? You see anyone else with testimonials, client interviews showing results like that? This is nuclear powered stuff. Let's see. You know what? Dr. Gabor talked about ADHD. What's behind that? I had a brother with ADHD, another with ADD. I had all sorts of stuff worse than that. Manic depression, CPTSD, general anxiety disorder. Maladaptive daydreaming. Now you want to focus and study and you can't. You always think you will study. That's a complicated subject. I mean, we don't have time to get into it now. But you know what? If you get my ebook development beast right here, there is a way at the end of the ebook to do a 30-minute one-on-one consult, no charge with me. intermaster.com/free-ebook. Get it. At the end, there's a way to schedule a one-on-one 30-minute consult. Happy to help you, my friend. No charge for the 30-minute consult. And then we'll talk about how to help you from there. But there's all sorts of, reasons for that. And, anyways, we'll keep going. Let's see. Doesn't want to watch bad content. And then stop it. Can't. Again, 30-minute consult. We're already at 47 minutes. We got to go on, but you could doctor me one-on-one. There's a way to do it. I don't even charge for that. How do we handle anger? Determine how many sessions someone needs. Well, the short answer is it depends, but for that guy, that was one session, his anger was gone forever. One session. Let me tell you, I mean, it varies. The most I had one guy do 11 sessions with me, and he had a massive amount of trauma. I probably got about 70-80% of it. He was resisting a lot of stuff. There are certain beliefs he doesn't want to let go of. So it was harder to help him, but still helped him massively. That's the most I've ever done for anyone is 11. I have probably a couple others I did 7 or 8. Most people are 1 or 2 and occasionally 3. That's 80% of people. And I have had people prepay for 3 sessions. And on the 3rd session, they're like, I don't need the 3rd session. You fixed my stuff. So I don't do 3 session deals because half the time I fix all their stuff before the 3rd session. I'd say most people can do 2 and benefit, but it does depend. Some guys, they really needed 5 sessions and I totally changed their life. But the testimonials or the interviews, like a lot of people severely messed up. Totally changed your life. Watch the Brent Caldwell interview. He had 3. Watch the Laurent Bernoux interview. He had 2. Watch the Jorge Diaz. All he did was self-hypnosis. And after that interview, I did 1 session, fixed everything. All the major stuff.
If you've had a lot of bullshit in your childhood,
a lot of testimonials, 1 or 2 sessions. That's it. This is so effective.
If you've had a lot of bullshit in your childhood, there might be, like, for me, there were a lot of complex things I had to work through. Like, for example, I had to remove, in order to even get access to everything that was in my subconscious mind, I had to remove the guilt I felt for even wanting to look at what was inside my subconscious mind.
How many sessions did I do for you, Jordan?
You did 1, and I've done several on myself since then. I did
you've done self-hypnosis since then.
Yeah, I used the audios you gave, or I mean, like, since I'm a hypnotist, I can do it to myself without audios. So, but like, I'm some kind of clients I know are just, and this is what I'm learning as I work with more and more clients, is that sometimes I recommend, what I've started offering is I'll either do 1 or 3 sessions. I can generally tell how much a client is going to need based on my initial reading of that person. And so I'm getting better at this because I noticed, why do some clients have, like, most clients have a ton of benefit after 1 session, And then they notice
how
other
much did my
things.
session benefit you? One session.
It was a lot, and it's hard to remember back then because I've done so much work since. But it was, I think, because you helped just open the door, realizing that this was an issue. Because the biggest thing for me was I felt so much guilt for even wanting to look at these ideas, and you helped me remove a lot of that and see, the correct thing to do is always move in the direction that's going to. I have permission to actually do what I need to do to make myself better. I can make decisions on my own that I don't need other people's approval and validation to make the decisions in my life that I know are good for me. Because I couldn't even I struggled so much. There's so much cognitive dissonance when I wanted to do something, but people in my life, family, friends that didn't want me to do that. It was so hard for me to step outside of the box of other people's expectations. It was damn near impossible. I felt like I was a bad person if I didn't do the things that other people wanted me to do. And it wasn't like I was unsuccessful from the outside. I was
valedictorian of your high school.
All the stuff, leadership, you name it. But that was all within the box of what other people thought was acceptable. The moment I started creeping outside of that, oh, no, that's not allowed. And then I feel guilty. So that's kind of the way it was. And so if you've got a lot of anger trapped,
we could probably get most of that, if not all, in one session, but can't guarantee it. You might need more. It just depends.
I think, there are some people that just need more work. And especially because if you haven't done this process before, it can be difficult to let go of some of these things. Some people can let go of it a lot easier than others.
True.
Some people have these protection mechanisms so buried deep within them that it can be hard. You can let go of part of it, but you have to, and that we've talked about this, Ryan. It's like, why do some clients, or they have negative self-talk? We help clear something, but then they put themselves right back in that spot because they literally don't know how to be kind to themselves. I think when
and some don't consciously believe certain things. Some don't want to let go of certain beliefs, and that's their choice. I can't force you to change.
When we worked together the first time, I knew how to be nice to myself already. I just didn't give myself permission to do it. Yeah. If you don't know how to be kind to yourself, sometimes you might need that extra guidance to actually help you get
you might have some self-anger then, and that's not good. Yeah.
And sometimes it's anger. Sometimes the anger is, I am angry at my younger self for not standing up for himself or herself back then. That's what I've had many clients who feel like they were the victim of abuse, but they're angry at themselves for they're like, how could you were a victim. I'm angry at you for being a victim because you were 3 or 4 years old and whenever this happened, and it was, you shouldn't have been like that. They've anger towards their younger self, because that's why I have to be, and I've had to reframe that in some of the sessions with people. It's like, listen, if you saw, I use myself an example. If you saw a 3 or 4 year old Jordan in the same situation that you were in, you would think that was fucked up, right? And they would go, yeah, of course. So I'm like, don't you think that it's time that you allow that same compassion to yourself? And because sometimes, and you have to kind of frame it like that, so they realize, of course I would have compassion to somebody else, but I'm just not giving it to myself, and give them permission to do that. So we kind of went off. I don't know if I went off on a tangent there, but
no, it's cool. Totally cool. Appreciate your comments. One thing I'll say, the reason I'm like, hey, if a bully's bullying you, you can say, oh, this bully's just traumatized and this, that, and the other. But here's the thing. If you don't put yourself first, no one else will. And if you love yourself and believe you matter, someone should put you first. So I don't believe in getting revenge, but I believe if I need to, and I don't believe in out of control anger. I believe in control anger. But if someone's bullying me, if someone's hurting me, I don't think about their internal wounds. I'm like, I'm in a situation where I'm going to put myself first and defend myself. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to get this unfair treatment to stop because I matter. And if I don't put myself, no one else will. If I don't put myself first, that's where you put yourself first. And so, and if that ends up hurting the other guy, well, that was his choice. He chose to bully you or pick on you or try and take advantage of you or disrespect you. That was his choice, and his own poor choices led to these consequences. Fine, fuck him. I'm in a situation now where and I'm a very kind, compassionate person. That's why I'm doing this. But in those situations, fuck that guy. I got to put myself first and defend myself, honestly. Now, one thing I want to point out here is,
you want to comment on this guy's?
And by the way, when I do that, I don't resent that guy because I did put myself first. Yeah, to comment on this, having internalized trapped anger, all of that. Well, guess what? If you feel that's not appropriate and that's trapped and that feels bad, this could be a way to cover it up and medicate.
Yeah.
You wonder, like, oh, why can't I stop fapping? It's like, well, because your brain's like, I got to avoid this pain and I feel bad about being angry and that makes me sad and this is all very painful. God, I need some relief.
Right.
You get the relief and now you feel bad about the relief. You feel bad about everything. Your brain's just trying to like get you to feel better. It's maladaptive. But I do have to say, okay, with sessions, when I talk about a lot of people get 2 sessions, don't even need a third. Of course, that's not everyone. Some people need 5. Furthermore,
and that's okay. Like, it's okay to need more work. Like, that's
the majority of people only need 2 or 1.
Yeah. But don't judge yourself if you're like, shit, I did 2 or 3 sessions and I still feel like there's work to do. It's like, Ryan and I have done plenty. You think Ryan and I have only done 1 or 2 sessions on ourselves?
No. Well,
That's
and
like,
see, also,
you know,
what I want to be clear on is I give people self-hypnosis audios. I give them 3 if they do a session with me. I have a self-hypnosis program. I need to start promoting that. I promoted in my clients and my sales exceeded my expectations. And I just have so many targets I'm chasing, but I am going to make that available to the general public. What I'm looking at is like 1 to 3 sessions and you're doing self-hypnosis. I teach you how to do it several times. That clears all your major stuff out. But you can, from time to time, you can have mild to moderate things you didn't even know were there getting triggered 3 years from now, 5 years from now, as you go through different experiences in life, and then clear that out with self-hypnosis. And each time you clear something out, it's gone. It might take 5 self-hypnosis sessions, it might take 1. A self-hypnosis, it's you know, you don't have an expert guiding you. It's a skill you develop. It's usually not as powerful as a guided session, but it can be very powerful, and you can still completely clear bad subconscious programs with self-hypnosis. Happens all the time. You know, look at the Dan Molina interview. He cleared 15 to 20 all on his own. Same thing. Ryan Anwar got rid of his approach anxiety with self-hypnosis. That's an interview. The Brandon S., he cleared stuff with self-hypnosis. He talks about that. So it's not like one and done at all. And it's not like your inner world is totally pristine and perfect. It's like, no, we resolved all your major issues and we replaced it with the best programs, and your life is like massively, massively better. So I just want to kind of give, you know, an accurate picture, because we can have like 3, 4 dozen, 5 dozen bad subconscious programs. Maybe 3 or 4 are severe. We get rid of those, and then you start working on the smaller ones, you know, with self-hypnosis or whatever. So wanted to give a better picture, but listen, man, I started doing this on myself. Within 2 years, my income doubled. I didn't even try, and I was happy, and I was grateful. I was grateful for my toothbrush. I was grateful for, like, you know, air conditioning, like, you know, like not all the time, but I had feelings of gratitude for like simple stuff. Like I just had good feelings. I had confidence. My success, you know, I actually was mostly MGTOW dated for 2 years and went MGTOW for 3. So then when I started dating, I had to clear all the insecurities about dating when I started that again. Cleared it with self-hypnosis. My success with women went way up. I'm not saying it's like completely perfect, but honestly, you know, here in Latin America, by the United States man's, the average United States man's success with women, mine is like 50 times that, just because it's such a struggle for your average guy in the US. But I'm not saying it's like every girl just falls over me. It's like, but I do have a lot of success, you know.
You want to finish the Stoicism video?
Anyways, let's go. We're getting too off topic. I agree.
It's all good.
But that's the fapping is tied to covering all this stuff in you.
Does how we handle anger determine how many
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily.
I guess you don't handle anger. You figure out the source and you resolve it.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't like the framing of that question is sort of incorrect. It's not. You don't handle your anger. You release it. You resolve it.
You get to the point where you only have anger when it is appropriate to have anger.
Right.
When someone is infringing on you, when they're trying to take advantage of you, they're disrespecting you, they're bullying you, whatever, it is then appropriate to be angry. That is part of the fight or flight response. It's fight, it is protective, and that is healthy anger. We don't get rid of that, nor do we want to.
Right.
That keeps you from being like Chris Rock, where everyone walked over you because you couldn't be angry.
Right.
That's the whole point of the Chris Rock thing, is everyone messed with him because he had this force field inside, kept his anger from coming out because he's so terrified of his anger. It was repressed, and now he's just a doormat. So let's go back to the Seneca clip. Then we're going to watch the Gabor Mate, and we got to kind of go quick on this, but this has been a good show. This is really core stuff. I mean, this is very important. You hear of red pill rage. A lot of men have rage because they weren't allowed to express their anger in a healthy way, and they have bad beliefs about whether anger is appropriate or not. Sometimes it's totally appropriate.
And if any of you want help, more help,
that's why you're angry when you shouldn't be, because you've been suppressing it, and it's still there.
If anyone wants more
help,
help,
unhealthy ways.
Yeah, if anyone wants more help with this stuff, reach out to me on Twitter. I'm happy. I got you.
Yeah, me first, him second. Yeah, whoever you think is the most appropriate. Get my ebook. All right, so let's go back to this clip. You guys are seeing hardcore stuff, man. We're showing you real life. How many other people who are coaches have receipts like that? The Mark, that one man who I help, Mark. He's a great guy, by the way. What a great guy. All right, back to this. Let's listen to Seneca getting everything.
To live according to nature means to apply one's reason to social living.
Yeah, that's right, because we only have reason. Nothing else is good about our brain.
Anger is unreasonable and it damages society. Hence, it is unnatural in the Stoic sense. Seneca thought that anger was a vice with few, if any, exceptions. The three main reasons Seneca lists are: 1. Anger makes you a slave.
Okay, we'll stop it there. Well, listen, because Chris Rock didn't control his anger, he became a slave to everyone else walking all over him. So proves that wrong right there.
Well, it's right, but it's
like you're a slave to your anger, but are you really?
It's like you are that's true. If it's suppressed anger, you do become a slave to it. So that's correct. But then it's like you still have to release it, and so it's not just you can't just ignore it. So it's correct, but the framing is incorrect. So yeah, we can keep.
Yeah. Now, what I think was going on with Seneca is he was seeing a lot of unhealthy anger, and there is a lot of unhealthy anger out there, but he didn't draw the connection. And honestly, it's hard to figure this out. Gabor Mate has, because of all the scientific studies he's done, the world authority on this subject, one of the leaders in scientist doctors on this subject. He didn't understand why people express unhealthy anger. Well, it's because your healthy anger gets suppressed in childhood and you're not taught how to express it healthily. And that's when it comes out unhealthily. You heard Mark say, I was expressing my anger towards my parents, towards my girlfriend, myself. If you don't handle your anger in a healthy manner, it's then going to come out at inappropriate times. And then it's destructive. Then it makes you a slave. That's where it is maladaptive. So we're going to Gabor Mate. And by the way, suppressed anger causes cancer and all sorts of diseases. It causes stress in the body, inflammation in the body. And if it's there chronically, it can lead to disease. It often does. So we're going to watch the Gabor Mate clip. And anything to say before we go into this? I know I've been a little talking.
I think we covered it.
Okay, cool. All right, let's watch this one here. Gabor Mate is a rock star. He's one of my heroes. He is such a wise man.
I think this is the first time we've only gone like 2 minutes into a video and just It's all good.
It's we got a lot to say. I know I do. So
for his expertise on addiction, stress, and childhood development.
So a person's rage can be triggered by something relatively minor, but all of a sudden this lava flow just explodes out of you. And the difference between healthy anger and suppressing healthy anger is also unhealthy for you. But just as healthy anger expresses itself, does its job, and then it's gone, rage, the more it explodes, the bigger it gets. There was a great neuroscientist, his name was Jaak Panksepp, who tragically died a few years ago of cancer. And he distinguished a number of brain systems that we share with other mammals. They include care, he capitalized these, C-A-R-E, care, then something he calls grief and panic, then fear, lust, seeking, play, and rage. These are all brain systems that we have. They're all necessary for mammalian life. They're all necessary. By rage, he means the anger that arises when our boundaries are being transgressed. If I were to infringe on your boundaries, either physically or emotionally, the healthy response for you is to mount an anger response. No, get out, stay away. That's healthy. Healthy anger is in the moment. It protects your boundaries, and then it's gone. It's not necessary anymore. However, if your boundaries were infringed as a child, but you could not express it, it doesn't disappear. It gets suppressed. It becomes almost like a volcano that's gurgling and bubbling inside you.
this is the destructive anger that Seneca was observing.
Now, why
Because it was suppressed and it keeps building until it.
did you suppress it? Now,
And thinking all anger is bad contributes to the problem because it leads you to suppress it, and then uncontrollably at some point it explodes, and that's when it's destructive.
when that's happening to a small child, the last thing you can afford is to be angry. Because if you get rageful at the boundary invasion, you're going to get hurt even more.
Boundary invasion, you're trying to protect your boundaries.
So suppressing that rage becomes a survival mechanism. Nothing wrong with it. It's the right thing to do. You don't do it, your brain will do it for you automatically as a way of preserving your life or your relative safety. But the rage doesn't go away. What happens then later on as an adult, something triggers you, and all of a sudden it just explodes out of you, and you have no control over it. Now it's no longer a response, a healthy response to the present moment, but it's a response to the past. And just as my hurt and sense of abandonment and then rage was triggered by my wife not picking me up at the airport, so a person's rage can be triggered by something relatively minor, but all of a sudden this lava flow just explodes out of you. And the difference between healthy anger and suppressing healthy anger is also unhealthy for you. But just as healthy anger expresses itself, does its job, and then it's gone, rage, the more it explodes, the bigger it gets. So that's the difference between healthy anger on the one hand, which is essential boundary defense. And by the way, so much parenting advice in this culture tells parents to force kids to suppress their anger.
Yeah, like Seneca, he's a unhealthy parent. Sorry, man. He doesn't know any better. He's doing the best he can, but he falls in this category. Sorry, Seneca.
Really unhealthy advice. And there's healthy anger, then there's that rage that you and I have both experienced. Look, if you're going to punch a human being and there's a pillow to punch instead, better to punch the pillow. No question about that. But as a technique of dealing with it, no, that's not how you learn to process that rage, because it needs to be processed. I would encourage you to fully experience the body experience of rage, what's happening in your body. And you'll find that it's not just an idea in your head, it's something that dominates your visceral experience of yourself. Your muscles, your breathing, your abdomen, your entire nervous system. And there's ways of just helping you experience it. There's a wonderful Buddhist lineage spiritual meditation teacher called Tara Brach, who talks about rain, wrecking.
Okay, and we'll stop it there. Any comments there, Jordan?
I'm thinking about. I was thinking about what you said about him just saying all anger is bad. It's a very external way of looking at the problem, because I can understand how if you say, okay, well, People who are angry tend to act irrationally. They try to act out of emotion, anger, and it's better to use logic. Well, sure. But it's
as if logic can handle emotion. Have you ever tried being logical with a woman and her emotions? Come on. Come on. You should know better. Come on. That doesn't work. Come on.
Right. And it's kind of again, it just feels like wishful thinking. It's like
it's wishful thinking. It doesn't work.
It observes, it's so surface level. It correctly observes that people who are overly emotional or angry tend to make less logical decisions. But isn't that by definition, if you're using emotion rather and it's like, oh, don't do that. It's like, okay, easier. It's like, that's a nice thought, but that doesn't really, it doesn't address the root problem. We're here to address the root problem of issues, not to treat symptoms.
Yeah, you can say stuff that sounds good, or you can say stuff that works. We prefer the latter,
And to be clear, we're not saying every time you get angry at someone, you should blow up. Like, you should try and calm yourself and handle it responsibly.
You should control your anger.
Right. But
I do think if someone is physical violence towards you, an appropriate, most situations, not all. If he has a gun, no, an appropriate physical response back is terrible idea. But listen, if someone's doing that, and it's a situation where that's going to help you, it's justified. Self-defense is justified. But we got to control it. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I go back to masculine mindset's comments, like, how do I handle it? It's like, that's such a cognitive behavioral therapy mindset of handling it. You were handling symptoms. When it comes up, I do this. We look at, why does it come up to begin with? It's fundamentally different ways of thinking about it. That's why we have the show.
Fix your core so it only happens in a healthy way, and it doesn't come out unhealthily anymore because it's not suppressed anymore. It's gone. That trauma is gone.
Right. And that also helps. I think there's a little bit less judgment there when you're like, okay, I understand why I have certain anger. It's okay to feel that way. I don't resent myself or feel bad for having that. It's like another layer, right? It's like, then people feel guilty because they feel angry, or sometimes one way or the other. And so we just look at it. It's like, what's the cause? Why are you feeling this way? Rather than, how do I suppress it? How do I manage it, handle it, control it? We have to get away. There's a better way. We have to get away from thinking that this is just something you handle. This is something you solve, not something you just handle. So the mindset has to be around that.
I do think it's both to a point, meaning you got to get rid of all the unhealthy, suppressed anger, let that out of you, let it go, get rid of that. And then the healthy anger you have, we still live in a society where that needs to be funneled a certain way for maximum benefit.
Sure.
So I do think it's both, but if you're trying to control it, and that's like 10% of the solution, 90% or 95% is fix your core, get that suppressed anger out of you, gone forever.
Right.
That's 95%.
Right. If someone crashes into your car, you're probably going to be pissed.
This is true. Stick it to the bullies. Be your mental point of origin. Yeah, we have a right to defend ourselves, guys. Sorry, go ahead, Jordan.
No, that was all I want to say.
I'll tell you, and I brought this up a couple times before. I'm only bringing it up because it's relevant now. Usually on Friday, I didn't do my show yesterday because Teresa Kuhn, who I usually do it with, wasn't able to. She said she could come on for 5 minutes and say, so we're going to reshoot it. We're going to shoot the show with Teresa probably this Sunday night or Monday. Anyways, I was on a show and I was talking about how I handle women who flake. And if they flake on me, like first date or second date or very early on, I put them into a category of it's okay to flake on them. And she's like, well, I think you should hold to your integrity, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, listen, here's the reality. The flake rate for me is about 25%, which I think is pretty. I know guys who have 90% flake rate. I think that's just how it is. for many guys. Does that sound high? Does that sound about normal to you, Jordan? Or you have a girlfriend right now? So
I have a girl, so I haven't been in the game in a while. But the flake rate, 25%. At my height, I feel like it was higher, but I was also working a lot of
yeah.
so it wasn't.
And I'm in Latin America, so it's a little different. But
yeah. In the States,
25%. In the States, maybe a third. I don't know. But listen, 90% of women flake. The flake rate's 30, maybe it's a third in the United States, but 90% of women flake sometimes. So here's what I noticed with me. I had this thing of if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to flake, even if they do. And I started resenting women. And if you call them out, it really doesn't help because they won't take responsibility. So the reason I handle it, which is, listen, first date, if we set a date, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt that you're reliable, responsible women, because they are out there. It's about 10%, in my opinion, of women who are like that. In the United States, maybe it's 5%. I'm sorry, it's just true. These are just facts based on hundreds of dates I've been on, because I'm 49. I've been on a ton. And I'm sorry, but it's true. That's my observation, the observation of pretty much every man I know who has dating experience. Yeah, it's a very large proportion of women who flake, at least sometimes. And so the option is either if they flake, sayonara, don't see them again, and then the amount of dates you go on goes way down, or hold to my higher standard, so I keep getting played because I keep dating these women who flake on me, which again, to get, instead of dating 5-10% of all the women I get dates with, now I'm dating more, getting flaked on, holding myself to a standard they don't adhere to, and now resenting them. Or just say fine, fair is fair. And honestly, you can also, I'll tell them about it. It depends how it happens, but there's times where I say, listen, you said you'd do something and you didn't. That's not the mark of a reliable, high quality woman. And I've said that straight up. And honestly, more often than not, they apologize and then keep flaking. What's that?
Or it's just not the sign of a woman who's that into you to begin with. And why would you want to date someone who's not that into you?
Well, yeah, and so there are women who flake on. It's only if they flake on me and then they write me and say, "I'm sorry, I flaked." If they flake on me and they never write me back, then we're done.
Is your definition of flake, like, for me? What I typically would have done in the past is like
they ghost or cancel at the last minute.
Yeah, I very rarely did I ever have an experience where I would actually show up to the date location and nobody shows up. I either would try and confirm beforehand using if maybe we're going off topic. I usually try and confirm beforehand, and if I don't, I don't even bother showing up.
Yeah, there's things you can do to avoid to minimize the flaking, but if we plan a date, so I actually have it set up where I don't leave my home until she's in the Uber or on the way. Just period. So I am never at a restaurant waiting for someone who shows up 50 minutes late or doesn't show up. I've been there before. It's not worth it. And, sometimes women are like, oh, meet me at this restaurant that's halfway between us, like 20 minutes from you, 20 minutes from me. I don't do that. They're coming to me. I'm paying for the dinner. They're coming to me. And it's so that it's because women in general, now, again, there's maybe 10% of women who are really good women. There are. And I really treasure these women. I find them and then I treasure them and I treat them very well. But with 90%, 95% of women flaking, no, I'm sorry. Collectively, as a whole, ladies, you've lost the right to have me travel 20 minutes assuming, you're going to meet me there on time. It's sorry, too bad. But the way I do things now, I don't resent women at all. And that's why I do things the way I do them. I just don't resent them. It's part of the game. And guess what? We're on an equal playing field. And I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to show up on time first date, always, unless an emergency comes up, which again is rare. And then if it does, I'll let them know as far in advance as possible. And it's rare that it's something like that. So That's how it is. And that works. And that actually, that puts me in a situation where I'm not resenting and not having anger. But guess what? If someone's treating you unfairly and you tolerate it, it's going to lead to anger. Oh, I'm going to take the high road and let her keep taking the low road. No, I'm going to have resentment straight up. So that's why I do things.
The anger can be.
I think that is right and proper.
Yeah, sometimes the anger can also be, oh, if they flake on me, it means I'm not worthy, right? And I'm angry at myself.
Yeah, I don't feel that, but a lot of guys do.
Right, and that's
toxic shame being triggered.
And that's where I think that resentment comes from. And I don't even know if it's resenting women. Sometimes it's self-resentment. It's like if
you resent not standing up for yourself.
Right. There's a million reasons why she could have not showed up. But if you have this resentment toward this anger and resentment towards yourself, you're going to assume that you might say out loud that you're angry at them, but in reality, you're angry at yourself because because
you let them take advantage of you and you had the power to prevent that.
Or that you weren't worthy of the date to begin with. So them flaking on you reinforced the belief you already had about yourself that you're not worthy of other people's love, commitment, support, whatever. It's like, but it's not even that they might have issues. It's you have the issues because you internalize it.
Yeah.
So, is there more of that Gabor Mate clip you want to cover?
There's more. We could also cover it next week. That's where I believe later on that clip, he actually talks about how there's inflammation and disease that comes if you have repressed anger. And they've proven now that the number one cause of disease is inflammation, and stress and trauma cause inflammation. We did another, if you remember, I don't know, 3 months ago, we did a show on emotional trauma. Yeah. And there was a doctor talking about the lady who was over 400 pounds and lost all the weight, lost 300 pounds. And then she got triggered. She still had trauma in her. She got triggered and gained all the 300 pounds back. And how on average, people with like a lot of internal trauma, their life expectancy is almost 20 years.
Right. Oh,
they start having all sorts of disease, cancer, diabetes, among other, there's other causes for those diseases too, but this is a huge one. Yeah. Repressed anger, toxic shame, all that. It causes, because our body and our mind, it's all connected. And if one is unhealthy, it's going to affect the health of the other.
Oh, we were talking earlier about our rumination episode. I just looked it up. It's episode 13 of Inner Game Group, rumination, regret, and resentment. If you want to, we do an entire hour on rumination. So I can't remember the commenter who was asking about that, but if you want to check it out, episode 13, that's everything you want to know, we cover there.
Yeah. Now I'm going to, right after we get off, give me about 10 minutes. I'm going to put all the video clips in links in the description for this video.
Sure.
And so then you can watch them. We're about an hour and 23 minutes in. So we're going to hang our hat for today. But you can't just, if you suppress all your anger, it's going to cause problems, whether it's disease, whether it's blowing up later at people who don't deserve it. We need to honor our emotions. There's a reason that they are there. Yeah. And if they are maladaptive, that's because when they were healthy, we were taught those healthy emotions were wrong to some degree. And that is causing problems. But there's a reason for all of our emotions. They all serve a purpose, because they wouldn't be there if they didn't serve a purpose and facilitate our survival. So let's honor that. But if our emotions aren't serving us, let's fix the traumas, and then they will start serving. Let's put in the good beliefs that get your subconscious behaving optimally, and then everything's going to be working for you, not against you. And that is a great place to be when your subconscious is on your side and not your enemy and not working against you. Mm-hmm. And that's my final word. Anything final from you, Jordan?
Again, remember, if it's suppressed anger, you don't handle it, you resolve it. That's the mindset that
Yeah, you don't
I'm
manage
losing
it,
out.
you fix it.
Right.
Get it out.
Mhm.
Awesome. Very much appreciate that. Your insights today.
Absolutely.
Jordan,
Happy to be here.
that's our show. And the thing is we show you guys what to do, but you actually do it. You guys are the ones who actually fix your subconscious, get the anger out. It's your choice. And once you have the knowledge, you're going to find out you actually do have more power than you know to fix your inner world and then have a great life. That's our show. Thanks for watching.